Summer is the season of adventures, the time for long journeys where we get to relive our childhood. It's the perfect time for vacations or extended picnics, thanks to the summer break that lasts several weeks. Along with these overnight outings often come some daring challenges that perhaps we will still remember as we grow older. Of course, these are usually harmless and leave us with many emotions and memories. But there are also times when what seems like a harmless adventure leads to unfortunate events, such as accidents or even disappearances. Speaking of which, many people may suddenly recall the tragic fate of Megumi Yashiki and Narumi Takumi on a summer night nearly 30 years ago. Kimodameshi in Japan. There's a very popular tradition during the summer months, visiting abandoned and rumored to be haunted places. This is based on the belief that the chills from these places can make the body feel more at ease in the heat of summer. This tradition is often called Kimodameshi, or the test of courage. It is typically done in groups, daring each other to explore eerie, deserted locations, even graveyards, in the middle of the night. Kimodameshi is particularly popular among Japanese youth and teenagers because it is a way for them to prove their courage to themselves and their friends. No one knows exactly when this tradition began, but it has been practiced for a long time and passed down through generations. Usually, these challenges don't lead to serious consequences, and at worst, they just leave you with chills on a summer night. But in certain cases, it can result in unfortunate outcomes, and the following case is one of them. The abandoned hotel Megumi Yashiki and Narumi Takumi were two high school friends living in Himi City, Toyama Prefecture. After some planning, the two girls decided to choose May 5, 1996, the last day of Japan's Golden Week, as the day to perform Kimodameshi at a so-called spiritual location, a place haunted by many supernatural occurrences. The chosen location was Wozu City, about 60 kilometers from Himi, where the remnants of Subono Hotel stood. It was a 6-story building that was supposed to become a popular tourist attraction. But unfortunately, the plan failed in 1982. No one had the money to buy and rebuild it. With demolition costs reaching over 25 million yen, the project's owner and the city government decided to leave the building as it was, simply blocking off the entrances and windows with wooden planks, leaving it to its fate. This neglect of managing such a large abandoned building as the Subono Hotel led to many consequences. In the following years, it became a favorite gathering place for gangs and biker groups who liked to destroy what remained of the hotel. Many had planned to renovate the hotel over the decades, but none succeeded. The poor Subono Hotel was left alone on the hill, gradually fading into oblivion. The disappearance on the evening of May 5th, after Narumi finished her shift at a supermarket. She bought flashlights and spare batteries to prepare for the night adventure to the abandoned hotel. Around 9 p.m., the two friends got into Megumi's black Subaru and set off. In 1996, when mobile phones weren't widespread, the only form of communication the two girls had with their families was a small pager. The girls sent a pager message to their families, informing them they were going to Wozu to do Kimodameshi. Around 9:30 p.m., they stopped for about half an hour at Keimaru Park in Amizu. There, they met some friends and informed them about their plans for the night. At around 10 p.m., they refueled at a gas station in Wozu and continued their journey. At 11 p.m., a friend of Megumi and Narumi received another message. "We are in Wozu." This was the last message they sent. After that, Megumi, Narumi, and their car disappeared entirely. May 6th passed, and by May 7th, when the girls had still not returned, their families became extremely worried and reported the disappearance to the local police. Initially, the search focused on the hotel, as that was the last known destination of Megumi and Narumi. After finding nothing at the hotel, the police expanded the search and used a helicopter to check if the girls might have fallen into one of the surrounding ravines. The area was mountainous and densely forested, so such an accident wasn't out of the question. But despite extensive efforts, there were no signs of the two girls or their car. With no results, the police speculated that Megumi and Narumi might have run away to start a new life. This conclusion, along with the lack of any evidence, led the authorities to suspend the investigation. Of course, the families of the two girls disagreed with this reasoning and demanded further search efforts. In June of that year, Toyama Prefectural Police organized the first large-scale search along the entire route the girls had traveled, starting from Himi, their hometown. 2 searches were conducted, one in June and another in October. The search team scoured various routes along the way, as there was no way to be sure where the girls had gone. But once again, no trace of the unfortunate victims was found. The case clearly drew public attention because it was a mystery that seemed impossible to explain. As a result, many theories were proposed to explain the fate of Megumi and Narumi. The theories, for a time, the theory of a runaway and identity change was widely accepted because it was the conclusion of the investigation team. However, due to the family's insistence that this was impossible, many began to speculate that Megumi and Narumi might have seen something they shouldn't have on their way to Tsubono Hotel, something related to a gang called Bosazoku. This gang was notorious for its rebellious lifestyle, riding motorcycles and defying the authorities. Some sources even suggested that Bosazoku had ties to the Yakuza. The gang theory suggested that the girls might have been kidnapped or, worse, killed by gang members. But with no evidence at the hotel, this theory did not gain much support. What about an accident? The distance the girls traveled was nearly 60 kilometers, and it was entirely possible that they lost control and drove into Toyama Bay. But if that were the case, the last message the girls sent about having arrived would have to be a lie, or perhaps someone else used their pager to send it. Another popular theory was that the girls were abducted by North Korean spies, based on the fact that some such kidnappings did occur in the 90s. However, once again, there were no clues to suggest this, as kidnappers would usually contact the Japanese government or the victims' families. Of course, there were also numerous supernatural and imaginative theories. With no clues found after investigations, the case grew cold and public interest faded. The families of the 2 victims reluctantly accepted that there was no explanation for the fate of Megumi and Narumi, mourning their loss for many years. Then, in 2020, a new development in the case finally emerged. 24 years later, around noon on March 4, 2020, Toyama Prefecture Police used a crane to retrieve a black Subaru Vivio from the bottom of the sea at Fushiki Port in Imizu, near Kayomaru Park, where the 2 girls had stopped to chat with friends. The car was submerged 8 meters below the surface. To everyone's shock, inside the car were the remains of Megumi Yashiki and Narumi Takumi, confirmed through DNA analysis. Megumi's credit card was also found in the car. Unfortunately, after 24 years underwater, what remained of the girls were only fragments of bones. Because of this, there was no definitive way to determine whether they had drowned or if there was another cause of death. Although this recovery shed light on the fate of the 2 girls, the big question remains: why did they end up at the bottom of the sea? Only after the car was found did it come to light that in 2014, 3 people had approached Toyama police, claiming to have witnessed a car accident many years prior. Initially, the police dismissed these reports, but for some reason, they decided to reinterrogate the 3 unnamed individuals in January 2020. According to their testimony, around midnight on May 5th, the group saw a black Subaru parked near the edge of a slope in Kayomaru Park, with its front facing the road and its rear toward the port. The 3 claimed that as they began approaching the car, it suddenly shifted into reverse and rolled into the water. When asked why they hadn't reported the incident earlier, all 3 said they feared being involved in a lengthy investigation and being held responsible for what had happened. The police accepted their story as a tragic accident and decided to close the case. However, the public was outraged by the Toyama police's negligence, and rumors began to spread. Many questions remain unanswered. Who were these three people? Why did they stay silent for 18 years? And were they telling the truth? Another question was directed at the authorities. Why did the police keep this information hidden for 6 more years when they might have already known where Megumi and Narumi were? In 2020, the Toyama police said that Megumi's father was furious at the police's handling of the case. He did not believe the story provided by these witnesses, claiming he had no idea who they were. Despite his requests, the police never gave him any information about them. Did these three individuals really exist? Or did someone within the police department have a connection to them that influenced the investigation to be halted? Remember, the last message from Megumi and Narumi was around 11 p.m., and the last sighting of them was at the gas station heading towards Wozu. After the Kimodameshi, if they had immediately driven back, it would have taken about an hour to drive from the Subono Hotel to Kayomaru Park, which aligns with the timeline given by the three witnesses. Most of the Japanese online community believes that the events unfolded as follows. After seeing the car with the 2 girls inside, the 3 unnamed individuals began approaching, causing Megumi and Narumi to panic. They started the car without realizing it was still in reverse gear. In their panic, they accidentally hit the gas pedal uncontrollably, causing the car to plunge into the sea in an instant. This theory suggests that the 3 individuals may have intended to scare the girls as a prank, which tragically led to their deaths, prompting them to stay silent until their guilty consciences finally caught up with them. But since no information about these 3 people has been made public, we cannot know if they were directly involved in the deaths of Megumi and Narumi. Perhaps something worse happened, and they decided to push the car with the girls into the sea to cover it up and destroy the evidence. With no further information released by the police, all we can do is speculate. The case of Megumi Yashiki and Narumi Takumi remains one of Japan's most sensational unsolved mysteries, in part due to its connection to Kimodameshi, a cultural tradition that is still very popular among Japanese youth. With no clear explanation for what happened, the names of Megumi and Narumi may forever linger alongside these courage tests as a sad summer night mystery.